Hi everyone, this is Nareen's Life with MS. I am Nareen, and first of all, I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas because it is Christmas today and it also happens to be my mother's birthday. So that is why yesterday's video might have seemed like I was a little tired. It was just that it was past midnight because, we waited that long until we could, cut my mother's first cake, or maybe second, because then she got another one to cut today. But that being said, considering it is time for a thoughtful Thursday, let's begin with some thoughtful thoughts. So, for this thoughtful Thursday, one thing I thought about was because I actually ended up taking, my parents to what I can only describe as a new restaurant. Now, it's not new in any sense of the word. It's been there for a while. It's just that we had heard a lot about it. I definitely wanted to try it, and getting multiple after getting multiple recommendations of going there, I actually decided that maybe this was a good time to take my parents out for a lunch, and especially to celebrate my mom's birthday. So we did go there, and excuse me, the food was great. I mean, I don't think I've eaten that lavishly or that well for a while. And I think it's going to take at least a couple of months to, work all that food off, just considering how good it was. But, I actually wanted to take this moment to talk about, you know, different treats, right? And how often do you actually treat yourself given any amount of time, right? The reason I want to ask this is because we all have differences, right? Everyone has like cheat days, and during a week, some people like to treat themselves a little less frequently. And of course, considering that these past months I have had so many family members having their birthdays back to back, right? Me pretty much at the early end of the second half of the year, being with my birthday in September, and then everyone else in my family being pretty much within the last 2 months. um, you know Treats sort of towards the end of the year, treats pretty much start snowballing almost down the hill. So, there are definitely a lot more treats at the end of the year. But, and of course, it changes. So, at least for the first half of any year, there aren't, as many. So, how do I pretty much, when I'm in that area, it's not that I have fewer treats. I mean, I probably do, just because it becomes more of a it kind of becomes more of a scheduled thing. Let's say a, a weekend every month, for example, right? That is set aside for the treat yourself level of the treat yourself level of enjoying yourself. And then of course, you know sometimes it does go up to maybe twice a month, especially if there are lots of you know holidays happening, events happening. And when it does come to that, I do want to say that you know it it just happens like that. But mostly I would say that I'd say the treat definitely comes usually, I want to say, at least once or twice a month. But what usually ends up happening is towards the end of the year, it pretty much becomes something where you're having maybe once a week, right? So I definitely wanted to know how many times you treat yourself, and what do you do when you are treating yourself. So normally for me, I would say my treat yourself day, our treating ourselves day, usually includes quite a lot of food, definitely a lot of very good food, and usually also a little bit of cake as well. And when I say that there's also a little bit of cake, I suddenly realize that that number is going to skyrocket, especially at the end of a year, because the number of birthdays there are. And with that said, that is how I generally like to, you know, think about treats. I mean, normally in a regular week, I do have cheat days, and those happen to be during the weekends where I will, maybe for breakfast, I will, have a smoothie rather than, um, my regular breakfast of just, a few eggs, and then, you know, very high protein whole grain toast, and then with peanut butter, uh, and then some fruit. So rather than all of that, I generally just have a smoothie, and then you know have something for lunch and dinner. But yes, I do definitely want to know, what do you qualify as a treat? Does your treat differ from what your cheat meal might be? And how many times do you treat yourself? Because it's something that I find very interesting. I mean, obviously there is going to be repercussions to this. There are going to be repercussions, especially since you know there is a lot of I'm definitely eating something that is wildly different from my regular day-to-day diet. So I'm definitely going to experience the the whiplash to that. But of course, on the day off, when I'm actually treating myself, that's when I'm actually enjoying it. So who's to say that this is a bad thing to do? So with that said, yes, please do share your experiences, your thoughts, your insights on you know whether you, first of all, what do you consider as a treat yourself day versus what you consider a cheat day, whether they're both the same thing, and how it differentiates, how are they different in comparison. Because sometimes there are certain things we want to do which is still on the healthier end, but then we want to call it a cheat day because it's like a little bit sweeter. But then there are days where you just want to go all out. You want to definitely be a little you know extravagant with what you end up doing. And that is at least my definition of the cheat versus the treat, right? So with that said, I hope you did enjoy my thoughtful Thursdays. This is Narain's Life with MS. I am Narain, and here's wishing you a good night. I hope you had a great Christmas. I hope you spent it with your family if you had the chance to do that. And of course, considering that there is only 1 week left to the end of this year, do tell me about how excited you are for 2026 to start. So thank you so much. Good night, sweet dreams, and goodbye.